Dak Prescott better than Matthew Stafford, and where does he fit in the top 10 of quarterbacks going into the 2021 NFL season? This is the gray area right here on 105.3 The Fan. My name is Kevin Gray. Of course, you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button here for 105.3 The Fan on YouTube, where your undisputed home, of course, of Dallas Cowboys football and our training camp covers this year for 2021 is presented by Goody Goody Liquor. There is a real dispute on who the top 10 quarterbacks are in all of the National Football League. ESPN tried to do its best to help us out by polling 50 NFL players, executives, and personnel across the National Football League to help us about who should be in the top 10 of quarterbacks going into this upcoming season. You had your normal suspects at the top of the list, the Patrick Mahomes of the world, the Aaron Rodgers of the world, of course, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, all inside the top 5. The controversy starts when you get to number 6 and number 7. Now, this year, ESPN has Matthew Stafford as the 6th best quarterback in the National Football League. Of course, Highland Park's own Matthew Stafford. And at 7, yes, Dak Prescott comes in at number 7 this year. Now, it's interesting because Dak Prescott threw for over 1,800 yards, had 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions before suffering that fractured ankle in Week 5 against the New York Football Giants, where the Cowboys, of course, were number 1 in the NFL, throwing for over 381 yards per game when Dak Prescott was in there at quarterback. Then they plummeted to 28th in the NFL, throwing for 209.4 yards per game, behind the likes of your man Andy Dalton and Ben DiNucci and Garrett Gilbert. Of course, Ben DiNucci, who's in witness protection right now, we haven't heard from since that horrendous game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Conversely, when you look at it from Matt Stafford's perspective, trust me, I remember the years when he was playing really good football and going to the playoffs under Jim Caldwell. But subsequently, since then, after for some reason Detroit decided to fire Jim Caldwell, they really haven't had the kind of playoff success or even getting to the playoffs that they did when Jim Caldwell was their head coach. And now Matthew Stafford has a chance. Now, even though that he hasn't won a single playoff game in 12 seasons in the National Football League, to go to arguably the most talented team in all of football when you start looking at the weapons that the Los Angeles Rams have. Now, you think about Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson and Robert Woods on that squad alongside that defense with guys like, of course, Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey running around on that defense. So don't get me wrong, the talent is there for the Los Angeles Rams. And Sean McVay, who has been glowing about Matthew Stafford becoming the quarterback for this football team, joining him, Matthew Stafford at this point of his career is not a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, who, yes, I know, is 9-17 in his career against eventual playoff teams, has feasted on teams that didn't necessarily make the playoffs, especially when you start thinking about the 7-2 record with the 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, going 7-2 against non-playoff teams, and then going 1-6 back in 2019 against eventual playoff teams. I get all that and understand that. But you got to remember the defense necessarily hasn't been that great either for the Cowboys, especially when you look at the last couple of years. That should change, hopefully, under Dan Quinn and this defense going into this year. And then you start looking at the weapons that Dak Prescott's going to have at his disposal. Hopefully a healthy Amari Cooper, of course, Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb going into his second season, looking to continue to build on what was a terrific year last year with 935 yards and continuing to the kind of playmaker that the Cowboys think he's going to be. More importantly, this offensive line is back intact with Tyron Smith, La'el Collins, and Zach Martin building that Cowboys fortified wall in front of your man Dak Prescott. So it should be a pretty good year for Prescott, who is in the top favorites, of course, for NFL's MVP and also for NFL Comeback Player of the Year. But Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford at this point in his career. More mobile, can do more things with his legs, is definitely become the kind of accurate quarterback that you would expect Dak Prescott to continue to grow to be. But more importantly, the ceiling is higher, of course, now with Dak Prescott. Now that he has his 4-year, $160 million deal under his belt, the expectations are obviously going to be skyrocketed for the Cowboys at the quarterback position. For Matthew Stafford, he may be under the most pressure under any player in the National Football League this year. You say, Kevin, how can Matthew Stafford be the player with the most pressure on him going into this year? Think about what the Rams decided to do by moving off of Jared Goff. Basically, you said you failed on the pick with Jared Goff. You bring in Matthew Stafford, who, yes, at this point in his career is going to have the best talent that he's ever had around him, sans Calvin Johnson. And more importantly, the defense that he's going to be surrounded with Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and others is going to be the best that he's probably ever had to play with. So the expectation is to win in a very tough NFC West when you've got the likes of the San Francisco 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, and an up-and-coming Arizona Cardinal football team. Expectations are super high for a Rams team that went to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. So anything short of the Rams making the Super Bowl under Matthew Stafford could really be considered a failure. Dak Prescott has no choice but to take this team to heights that it hasn't been to over the past 25 years. Now, that's dependent on if this defense could be better than what it was. Obviously, last year, a horrendous defense, one of the worst, if not the worst, in all of the National Football League, giving up a franchise record 473 points, 34 passing touchdowns, the worst in franchise history, was 31st in the NFL, giving up nearly 160 yards on the ground. You know how horrendous this defense was last year. And even so, that offense can't overcome what was a poor defense last year and will not be able to overcome said defense this year if they perform the same way. So this is really why football is a total team effort. But more importantly, Dak Prescott, with his ability to continue to grow and throw with anticipation, the deep ball accuracy, and what he's able to do with his legs at this point, going into year at age 27, Dak Prescott, to me, presents a better opportunity to think that he's better than Matthew Stafford at this point in his career. Now, look, Matthew Stafford, in all his toughness, his tough as nails at the quarterback position, has a terrific arm with the arm talent, the God-given arm talent that most folks dream of having. But to say that Matthew Stafford at this point in his career is better than Dak Prescott, I simply just can't go there. But that's why they play the games, right? We will see if Dak Prescott can prove it on the field this year, especially with the talent that he has on offense coming back, but more importantly, hopefully remaining healthy for this Cowboys football team, because they will go as he goes, much the same way the Rams will go as Matthew Stafford goes. But for Matthew Stafford, the benefit is having that terrific defense. Hopefully Dallas can pull it together enough to support Dak Prescott through the totality of this football team, unlike they did a season ago. Only time will tell, but it should be a fun season nonetheless. All the projections in the world were, yes, Dak Prescott was listed as a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson going into this year, but just behind Matthew Stafford, according to these ESPN folks. You be the judge. Let us know in the comments, where do you think Dak Prescott is in terms of a top 5, top 7, or top 10 quarterback in all of the NFL? And we'll talk about it right here on your home of the Cowboys, 105.3 The Fan. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. And you can catch me on the weekends, of course, with my partner, the two-time Hall of Famer, Chris Arnold. We'll talk to you later. Peace.